Welcome to Nourishing Longevity with elénzia, where we look at smart, holistic ways to elevate longevity and support healthy aging. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe as it helps this content reach more people to provide support and education to everyone. Today we're discussing gut health and in particular why poor gut health has become the new normal. We'll be looking at how we got to this stage and some practical things that you can do to improve your gut health with some things you might not have considered. I'm Elizabeth, co-founder of elénzia, and I'm joined today by our lead nutritional scientist, Alexander Pilawski, who brings a brilliant combination of scientific depth, practical formulation expertise, and a genuine enthusiasm for helping people achieve better health. So hello again, Alexander.
Nice to be here, Elizabeth.
Thank you. So today, as I said, we're going to be discussing gut health in a bit more detail. And it's something that's become very common now to talk about in the nutrition world, as I'm sure, we all know, don't we? And that's because so many people are struggling with this on a daily basis. So let's start with the facts. What are studies showing us that adults are struggling with on a daily basis to do with gut health?
Elizabeth, it is not looking good for us in the UK. And we're following those in the US as well. The recent studies have shown that about 58% of us are struggling with gut health, and that means that poor gut health is the new normal. And with that, about 25% of us, about a quarter of us, are struggling with IBS-type symptoms on a regular basis. And then most of us are going to be trying to ignore, just trying to live with that. So many people are just suffering in silence, essentially, with gut health and just accepting that as their new standard of living.
So people aren't discussing it. I guess they're probably embarrassed to talk about it. So it is just something that they're living with on a daily basis and nobody really knows. So it's a shame, isn't it, that people really seem to be struggling. So why has this become the new normal? What factors are there because this didn't seem to be an issue kind of 50 to 100 years ago that people were struggling with poor gut health on a daily basis. So what's happened?
The world has changed so much in the past 100 years, but also just the past 50 years. The way we live our life, the diet, the lifestyle, all of these things have changed so drastically. We can think about the food that we have access to. And that is also, part of the reason why we're struggling with that poor gut health. Over half of the food that we consume as Brits is ultra-processed food. And that is not what our ancestors would have had access to. But not only that, the quality of the food has just reduced over time. It's hard to find and difficult to actually, find and afford organic foods. So if you think about how many additional chemicals we're consuming on a regular basis, and that has quite a tremendous impact on the gut microbiome itself. It's quite a sensitive thing, especially to all of these chemicals that we ingest. But it's not only that. We think about antibiotics, how commonly they're prescribed. A large percentage of the time, they're prescribed for viruses. So we're using antibiotics a lot, and that is why the modern human gut does not even resemble our ancestors. We've got certain species that have almost been completely wiped out of the modern human gut microbiome. Things like Lactobacillus reuteri. Okay, and that's not going to be present in most people in the modern world. And then we just think about our lifestyle. We think about we're sedentary a lot of the time in our offices, whether we're working from home or in the office. We're sitting down for long periods of time, and we're stressed. Compared that to the type of life that people were living 100 years ago, we are not really spending nearly enough time outside, connecting with nature, decompressing from the stress of daily life. So it's a combination of factors, but it all just culminates, and really it's not a surprise that most of us are struggling at this point.
And it's right, it's the modern world. Even I struggle with this, that having kids, working full time, you get home from work and you don't have the time or the energy to think really about, okay, what am I cooking? What am I putting in my body? It's just easier to what's quick, what's easy, and then you do fall into bad habits, don't you?
It's easily done.
Yeah.
It's easily done.
Definitely. So what are the signs of an unhealthy gut then? What are symptoms that people can look out for to indicate that their gut health is poor?
I think we all intuitively know. And, if we're struggling with gas and bloating, and, we're fluctuating between constipation and diarrhea, and we've got food sensitivities that we maybe didn't used to have, things like that. And, generally we might even feel, for some reason, fatigued.
Yeah.
We might be getting ill quite regularly. There's lots of different facets to poor gut health. So it might not just be how you're feeling, in the midsection. It's also going to affect your mood as well, and things like that. So, yeah, poor gut health, most of us are going to have that. And most of us understand that we can't eat certain foods. We want to try and avoid certain foods because they cause us to, feel certain ways, and we'd rather avoid that. We'd rather avoid that embarrassment.
Yeah.
And so it's quite debilitating. We don't feel as free in our life. Essentially.
Okay. And so you mentioned quite a few kind of signs and symptoms there, and I know that these are things that people in my life are kind of dealing with on a regular basis, and it seems to be that the gut does impact the whole body in one way or another. And the term leaky gut, this has become something that a lot of nutritionists are talking about. Obviously we join kind of educational webinars and talks quite a lot, and it's been a hot topic for quite a while now. But I think it's not something that the everyday person would kind of know or understand. So can you explain a bit about what leaky gut is?
Absolutely. So leaky gut is also called increased intestinal permeability. And really, your gut is like a filter. It allows certain things through, but it has to try and keep other things out. And the way our gut is structured is that we've got a layer of these very delicate cells, and it's one cell thick.
Okay.
And above that, we've got a nice mucus layer that protects it and also houses the microbiome. Now, when that mucus layer thins, it's exposing those delicate cells to whatever's inside the gut. And we can imagine it as whatever's coming through the gut is just starting to scrape away at those cells, is starting to agitate those cells. And if you can imagine it just on your skin, if you had something constantly agitating your skin, it starts to get red, it starts to get inflamed.
Yeah.
And if that continues, then you'll start to experience, the symptoms that, of food sensitivities. But not only that, what happens is, as the gut barrier itself gets damaged, it starts to become inflamed.
Okay.
So we think about that redness of the skin, that inflammation of the skin, and just picture that in the gut. But what happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut, in the sense that if there's any inflammation there, it's going to be transported to the rest of the body. And also, when that gut barrier breaks down, it can't effectively keep out what it needs to keep out.
Okay.
And you've got these, little pieces of bacteria or little food particles that are getting into the bloodstream along with that inflammation that's going on, and it's being distributed around the entire body. And that inflammation is going everywhere, to your brain, to your arteries, damaging all of these places. So, it's not a surprise that people would feel low mood, brain fog, these types of things, if there's inflammation and that's affecting the, cognitive performance.
Yeah. So it definitely seems that, like you said, what happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut, and it's creating these kind of, I guess, secondary health concerns and health conditions. So I guess the simplest thing is to look at your diet. If you are experiencing not just digestive discomforts, but things like brain fog and kind of skin concerns, as you mentioned, it's looking at your diet. So what are some foods to avoid to get that healthy gut?
So an interesting fact is that over 70% of us are buying the same foods every week.
Okay.
And 50 shades of beige is a problem. Okay. So diversity in our diet is a key concept. If we look at our plate and we've got different colours there, that's a great sign that we're going to be feeding a diverse group of species of bacteria in our gut. And diversity is power in the gut, in the gut microbiome. When we eat the same types of food all the time, especially if they are, those processed foods, they're typically beige types of foods as well, we're going to be feeding a certain type of bacteria or a certain group of bacteria. And they are probably not going to be beneficial for us. In fact, they won't be beneficial for us, and they'll lead to cravings and all these types of things. So we can't avoid ultra-processed foods, but limiting them as much as we can. And really, it's all about focusing on eating real foods. Foods that where that came from. That your ancestors would recognize what that is. And that doesn't mean you have to eat boring food. You can still experiment. You can still eat traditional foods of other cultures as well. And lots of the time, those foods are also very interesting. They've got different fermented foods from different parts of the world, and they're going to support your microbiome, and they're going to support that gut diversity. So, telling you what not to eat, people understand that if it comes in a packet, if it's got an ingredients list with things that you don't even know where that came from, how to pronounce it even, you probably shouldn't be putting that in your body.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's sound advice, definitely. So we've spoken about how the gut is linked with different elements of our body. So just how important is good gut health then?
So as I mentioned before, what happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut. So we understand that if it's in a bad shape, then that's going to be spreading that inflammation around the body. That's going to be negatively affecting us. But the gut is also key for distributing all the nutrition, all the nutrients, all the antioxidant things that we consume from our diets, from our supplementation. If we want to make the most of our supplementation, our diet needs to be the foundation, because we can be supplemented with amazing things. But if our gut is in a poor condition, then the gut is not able to actually distribute that well to the skin. If you're taking something for your skin, your skin, hair and nails, or if you're taking something for cognitive function or for eye health, you name it. If a lot of the times these are antioxidant type things, and if there's a lot of inflammation and oxidative stress in the gut, then those molecules are going to be changed in the gut, and they're not going to be able to get to where it needs to get. So
it's going to target your gut inflammation before it's actually, if you're taking something for joint inflammation or, like you said, skin inflammation, it's just going to be going to your gut before it's doing anything for the rest of your body.
Absolutely. But the gut is also incredibly important for cognitive function and how we feel. Our feel-good neurotransmitters are actually produced in the gut. So you might think that you're starting to suffer with a bit of depression, but that actually could be your gut suffering, and because your microbiome is out of balance, it's not able to produce those neurotransmitters that allow us to feel those good feelings, those good, happy, balanced feelings. So the gut is a lot more important than we give it credit for in the terms of, our emotions. But essentially, if your gut isn't in a good state, the rest of your body is nowhere near going to be performing optimally. You're not going to feel. You're not going to feel great. You're not going to recover great. You're not going to sleep well. And it all stems from the gut.
Okay. And this is a bit of a left field question, that might not be so black and white. But if somebody was genuinely struggling with poor gut health and they wanted to improve it and, eat the right foods and make the steps to make that change, what kind of time period would you say that they would be able to improve their gut health? We were looking at 2 to 4 weeks. Is it something that's going to take 6 months to kind of get your gut back to a good place?
So it's obviously going to depend on the person's starting position, but making permanent change in the gut takes time.
Okay.
Shifting that microbiome takes time. And what happens is when we shift our diet, we start to starve out those bad bacteria. And really, there's no such thing as bad bacteria, but we want to change those levels of certain bacteria to increase those ones that we know are beneficial to the body and decrease those other ones. So that takes time. They're not going to go without a fight. So we might be experiencing cravings and mood swings and things like that because they're going to be fighting back. We've got this gut-brain connection. And if these microbes are not happy with what's happening, like you're changing, we're not getting fed anymore.
Here. Yeah.
We want to survive, things like that. That is going to be a period of possibly unsettledness. But, we work through that because we know that that end goal, whether it takes 2 months, whether it takes 3 months, or maybe even longer, because it depends on how disorganized your gut is, how damaged your gut is. But, it depends on also how many things we can do to support that. And that's going to be the diet-wise, lifestyle, managing stress, these types of things. And the more things we can do together, the quicker our results will come.
And would you say there are enough studies out there at the moment to show the impact that the gut has on our long-term health and longevity, or are we just kind of scratching the surface to understand, I guess, the long-term impact that gut health is having?
I think at the moment, there are plenty of studies. There's enough studies for us to be confident in the fact that if our gut is not healthy, our entire body is going to be affected. We're learning more and more and more about the intricacies of how that works. But we don't need to know all the extra mechanisms, all the extra tiny little details. What matters for me and you and for all the audience listening is that sorting out our gut health is a priority if we want to be healthy, if we want to enjoy a longer life.
And I guess, function as we should be functioning on a daily basis without struggling with brain fog and things like that. Okay, well, thank you so much, Alexander. I mean, that's given me some, even further insight, and I'm kind of talking to you on a daily basis about this. That was really helpful. And it definitely gives a really good overview of how much our gut health does impact everything in the body. And I think the key kind of takeaway for me is that if people are struggling with not just the regular gut discomfort, but if they are struggling with brain fog, skin conditions, whatever it might be, kind of those secondary elements, look first at what's happening in your gut. What am I eating? What does my daily life look like? It could be impacting my gut. So I think that's a really key takeaway for people, and also not to be embarrassed and seek support. Go to your GP, look at there are some fantastic nutritionists that like us are providing that content online. So really look for that support and look to make those changes today to impact our lives for the future, really.
Absolutely. If anyone's struggling, know that you're not alone. Know that there's other people and there is that sound advice available, and it's not easy, but it's worthwhile.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Alexander.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for listening to Nourishing Longevity with elénzia. So as I said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you do have any questions about what we've discussed in today's episode, please do comment and we'll get back to you with any answers. On the next few episodes, we'll be discussing gut health in a bit more detail and diving into some really helpful tips as to how to encourage that long-term gut health and longevity. So thank you for listening, and for any more information, please visit elénzia.com.